that if we work together, we will have the resources we need to build a thriving, vibrant community. So in 2011, VCF and the credit union worked closely together to develop and deliver the Vancity Affordable Community Housing Program that we're going to share a little bit about today. So as of 2023, the foundation is the main manager and operator of the overall program, and Vancity Credit Union is our main investor partner in the program. And they also contribute local community business real estate expertise to housing projects that we work with, which is, more that we'll share about in a little bit. So I probably don't need to tell anybody in this room about the challenges people and families are facing in finding affordable housing. Imagine having to upheave your 2 kids for a 3rd time as you search for housing you can afford in a community you don't know and far from the hospital you work in. Imagine working 3 jobs just to afford rent when you only get an hour or 2 between jobs to enjoy it. Or imagine that your aging housing is being sold for market development, meaning you, at age 68, have to move out of the community you have grown up in and leave the support network you have built. So we see this every day in our communities, and many of us within our own lives, friends, and families. And across Canada, a 1/3 of rental households are living in housing deemed unaffordable, and these scenarios are far too much of a reality for many people. But I want you to take a moment to envision a neighborhood where everyone has a safe and affordable place to call home, and housing that's community owned by nonprofits, cooperatives, Indigenous organizations, and First Nations, protected from capitalistic market forces, and remains dedicated to meeting the needs of community rather than financial return. Housing that's affordable and costs no more than 30% of household income before taxes, which means people can afford essential items like food, childcare, and utilities. And housing that's climate ready and is suitable for our rapidly changing climate conditions that are affecting and will continue to affect our communities more so in the decades to come. So it is possible to make this a reality, and more affordable community housing is a solution. We know this. We have a vibrant and committed community housing sector, the nonprofits, cooperative housing, and Indigenous housing organizations who have huge potential to bring more affordable rental housing to our communities. And many are rising to the challenge. They're developing their existing sites, acquiring land, rental buildings, and partnering with municipalities to get more housing projects built. This includes all types of community organizations that own land or aging buildings, faith-based groups, community service organizations, and cultural facilities, to name a few. Yet, only 4 to 5% of Canada's housing stock is currently community owned. And despite lots of increased government support that we've all been seeing over the past few years, early stage funding for housing projects is still lacking. So despite their potential, a persistent barrier exists where nonprofit developers lack the early stage funding and support to bring more affordable community housing to our communities. Most investments from governments and conventional lenders are only available at the start of construction or later. And those that are available prior to construction can often be extremely competitive and time-consuming to secure. So to get through this stage, community housing developers often spend 10 to 15% of total project costs to advance design, close on land, and obtain the necessary permits and approvals that are needed to get these projects completed. So to put that into perspective, on a $40 million project, that's up to $6 million, which is a lot of cash. And unlike market developers, many nonprofits lack the reserves or resources to fill this funding gap. So to address this, we need to increase access to capital to bring more housing projects to life. And this can look like many different things. We can provide financing options for the early stages of housing projects. We can provide sustained support to help organizations secure the municipal approvals they need and unlock other sources of funding and financing. We can also offer flexible and patient financing to prevent delays associated with project changes common in the early stages of housing development. So enter the Vancity Affordable Community Housing Program. Our mission is to preserve and grow the supply of community-owned, climate-ready homes. We believe that if we offer early stage funding for community housing organizations to catalyze the development of climate-ready housing and strengthen the ability of organizations to develop, manage, and scale their housing projects, while we work to eliminate barriers hindering affordable housing at scale, that we will then increase the availability of affordable homes in communities. So this slide kind of shares a little bit about exactly what we do, and our program provides that early stage funding to help catalyze housing projects. So often, community housing projects start with high risk, requiring a large amount of cash, remember the 10 to 15% of a total project cost, and have limited access to funding resources to advance projects quickly. This can significantly delay or stop projects altogether. And you'll see in this graphic here that we are showing sort of the housing project development continuum that is often followed. This is fairly basic, but it's trying to show you where the risk is most high at the very beginning. And as the project comes online and continues to advance, it de-risks as other resources become more readily available. So as the project advances, the organization's own money requirements in the project decreases, and it gets replaced by more readily available funding options, such as construction and takeout mortgages. So our program was developed to address this barrier and help de-risk projects early on. Our money often aims to be the first money in prior to many of the other sources that are currently out there, including government, and aims to act complementary to those other funding sources like the government, BC Housings, or the CMHCs, who are the ones who most commonly fund and finance housing projects. So we have two main offerings. We have grants and loans to help us do this. So our grants are for the very earliest phases of a project and help organizations build capacity and establish a solid financially viable project. And once a project has a viable business plan, we offer three types of loans for the pre-development, pre-construction, and acquisition phases of housing projects to help them move through the due diligence, municipal approvals, detailed design, and all the types of permitting that's required to get a project into construction or to complete a real estate acquisition. So our loans are really designed to be really low cost and flexible, and this is unique in the marketplace. They are unsecured and currently charge a 2 to 5% simple interest rate. Our average loan size is about $500,000 and is determined based on the scale of the project readiness, and funding need of the organization. Our loans are typically repaid upon receiving construction or takeout financing, or 5 years post-occupancy, once the project's net operating income has stabilized. So this is a really quick and snappy overview of what we do and the type of capital that we are providing. Often what I don't have as much in this graphic is showcasing how most of the other project funding sources come online later. There's some available, and I would say certainly government absolutely has been stepping up to plate to fill some of these earlier phases in the blue area, but a lot of that is still limited and quite competitive to secure. So we want to be complementary to that to help groups move through these phases. So who do we work with? This slide gives a quick overview of who that is and the type of housing project that we fund. So ideally, we look to work with nonprofits, cooperative housing providers, First Nation government or Indigenous organizations. We're looking for groups to have site control of their land, either through ownership or a long-term lease, of course, unless you're pursuing an acquisition loan. Looking for folks to have a credible project management team with a demonstrated track record and the capacity to carry out the project. And of course, we want folks to be committed to affordability. So ideally, at least 30% of the units must be less than 80% of the median market rent for the area and maintained for at least 20 years. We also want and are seeking to support projects that are committed to creating climate resilient, affordable housing, and looking for projects that demonstrate that it prioritizes social equity and accessibility. And one last piece there I forgot to cover is project type. So often, we're seeing projects that are redevelopment of existing housing or new housing development, or it might be underutilized land. So for instance, this could be a faith-based organization that might have an aging site that they're looking to redevelop and to put a mixed-use building that includes affordable housing. It could be acquisition of existing multifamily buildings or new units in a market development, which we're seeing more of. It could be a multifamily rental projects, and it can have some home ownership. We often see quite a few mixed income buildings to ensure that they're able to be financially viable. And targeting low to moderate income households is our main focus. We have this little graphic with the continuum here. We very much focus on the affordable rental housing. We do see projects that have some social housing and maybe a few transitional housing units in it. But we really, really want to be focusing on that missing middle income housing. So I have a little case study to kind of tie this all together that I'd like to share with you. I'm going to play a video for a moment here. It's about 3 minutes long, and just bear with me. I'm new to using this platform, so I'm just going to get it to play for us here. I've heard the volume might not be fantastic, so let's hope it works out. Just one moment. Thank you. Okay.
Do new developments always have to mean painful evictions? Well, I think this development behind me offers a hopeful alternative. Historically, this property was home to 57 affordable homes for seniors, but as the housing provider constructs 2 new buildings on this site, all the former tenants have been offered places to rent at the organization's other properties at the same rent they were paying. And when the building is finished, they will have the option to move back here at affordable rents, around $800 a month or less. It's the kind of feel-good story that we rarely hear about in BC's housing affordability crisis. And what makes it possible stems from the kind of housing provider who's behind this project. This site is being developed by a nonprofit housing provider called Brightside, who has a specific mission to provide affordable housing in Metro Vancouver. Nonprofit housing providers build and manage housing for reasons beyond profit, often focusing on the types of housing that aren't readily available in the private housing market, like affordable seniors housing, housing for victims of domestic violence, or housing for refugees. So when the old buildings here needed significant repairs and renovations, like an elevator, Brightside created a redevelopment plan that would still maintain the original number of 57 deeply affordable units. This new development has 157 units of housing for seniors 55 and older. It's going to be new, it's going to have elevators, and it's going to be passive house, which is not a subgenre of EDM, but a net zero energy efficiency standard that makes it much cheaper to heat and cool the building. Brightside is able to make 57 of those units so affordable because the rest of the units will be priced at rents for middle-income residents that can help pay for the overall development. That's why it's able to offer the old tenants a place at the new building in their old location at affordable rents, all while providing much-needed housing supply. But there's one other key reason why this redevelopment was possible: the Vancity Affordable Community Housing Program. You see, putting together any development plan actually requires a lot of upfront capital. It usually takes millions of dollars to put together a proposal with architectural drawings and municipal approvals before you can apply for the tens of millions of dollars to get the building actually built. Vancity saw that for many nonprofit developers, there were few funding options available for that crucial first step. Because of that, they joined forces with the Vancity Community Foundation to co-create the Vancity Affordable Community Housing Program. It provides low-interest loans and grants for organizations who are in the early stages of planning to build affordable housing. And through the program, Vancity has been able to support the development of over 5,600 affordable rental homes throughout the province. For Tambra and Harmony, the Vancity Affordable Community Housing Program provided a low-interest loan of $1.43 million to prepare its proposal, as well as additional grants to study best practices for its tenant relocation program. For me, this story is a great reminder that your rents don't have to go towards paying a typical for-profit landlord, and your bank deposits don't have to go into a typical bank. You can bank with a community-minded credit union like Vancity, who supports affordable housing projects like these.
Okay, thanks everyone. Hopefully you were able to hear that. Okay, great. Apologies, I'm new to this platform, so I'm having a little nervous about making sure that you can see what I'm sharing on my screen. Okay. All right. So moving forwards, oops. So how is this all made possible and how does it work? So our program pools donor and investor capital so we can fund high impact housing projects. You'll see this in this diagram here. That's a really basic version of exactly how we do what we do. So we work with community partners and the credit union to build a strong pipeline of projects and fund housing projects in need of flexible early capital. We then invest funds quickly to advance more housing projects faster and remove barriers, which helps deliver and preserve more homes in community. The funds grow and revolve into new projects to maximize impact in community. So the program also offers a unique opportunity for investors seeking reliable financial returns by contributing to the acquisition and development of community-owned affordable rental housing through the revolving loan fund I just mentioned, otherwise known as the Accelerator Fund. As a replenishing fund with first loss provisions of up to 12 million, seeded by grant funding from Vancity Credit Union, the Accelerator Fund pools capital and presents an investment opportunity that offers a fair return and makes a tangible difference in helping build more affordable housing. Our current investment product offers up to 4% simple interest with an ideal minimum investment of 250,000. However, we are currently working on developing a new investment series at the moment to offer more flexible options suitable to meet the fund's future scaling goals that we'll share in a moment and overall long-term capital needs. So to date, we've raised about 12 million in funds from impact investors, which is primarily actively deployed to housing projects in the southwestern BC area. So we also have donors that play a pivotal role in making capital available for the program's granting strategies and for contributing to the loan fund. So the results speak for themselves of what we've been able to do through this program. So the Accelerator Loan Fund alone has so far issued 96 loans worth about 39 million to 75 different housing projects, working with 63 different not-for-profit partners. To date, we've funded about 5,658 homes, and 91% of those homes will use at least 50% less energy relative to the BC Building Code for that municipality or area. And this has resulted in providing many homes for many different populations, including seniors, women and children, families, people with disabilities, Indigenous peoples. And about 37% of the homes can accommodate families and have about 2 or plus bedrooms. This next slide kind of shows a snapshot of our active loan portfolio. And you can see that of the total projects we've funded, 53% have reached occupancy, 18% are in construction, and 23% are permitting, and 6% are other. So this also includes loan write-offs or projects that did not move forward but still repaid their loans. So moving into discussing about our scaling. Based on our program's success to date in southwestern BC, we have a big opportunity to scale and replicate the current affordable community housing program model across Canada. As we kind of shared, non-market community-owned housing can help solve Canada's housing crisis. In countries like Sweden and Austria, where up to 30% of rental housing is community-owned, housing is much more affordable. But in Canada, only around 5% of rental homes are community-owned. So we have a big opportunity here to close that gap. And so, we have a vibrant sector, like we discussed earlier as well. Nonprofits, cooperatives, and Indigenous organizations have the land and resources to build more housing. What they lack, though, is the early stage risk capital to support and advance projects from idea to construction. So we're collaborating with other Canadian credit unions to develop a national model to implement the program in other regions. This includes expanding beyond our usual footprint in BC and moving beyond just the southwestern area that we primarily focus on. So our end goal is to speed up the creation of affordable housing by pooling and rapidly deploying national and local investor and donor capital to bridge the early stage funding gap of community housing projects. So with this, VCF is excited to share that our scaling project has received support and funding from CMHC's Housing Supply Challenge Level Up round. So we were one of 20 semi-finalists who have received $1 million to help us do this. So just for context, the Supply Challenge aims to remove or reduce barriers that hinder housing supply. Its goal is to scale systems level solutions to produce more community and market housing faster across Canada. So we're currently advancing into stage 2 of this project. And we have been tasked with looking to develop our strategy to effectively scale, prove the adoption of our solution, and to demonstrate buy-in from key stakeholders, which includes credit unions, the community housing sector in other regions in Canada, and national and local level investors, such as foundations and other types of investors that can help us reach our goal. So if successful, up to 10 solutions will receive an additional $3 million prize to continue to move forward with their scaling efforts. And if the solution is proven to be a game changer at the very end, finalists will work with CMHC to execute their plan to level up, and up to 3 game changer solutions will then receive an additional $5 million prize. So this slide is kind of showing a little bit of the model that we've been working towards. And so just thinking back to what we just shared, this program was really born from the local expertise of working with a credit union, along with the power of impact investment. And we know that this is a model that can scale. So our vision is to create a national pool of funds made up of capital from governments, foundations, and impact investors. This national fund would then be matched with local capital generated by local investors, nonprofit organizations, and credit unions. So this means forming new regional funding envelopes across the country, bringing millions of dollars in new capital to support early stage community housing projects, unlocking vacant and underutilized land from coast to coast, and accelerating a pipeline of new affordable housing projects that would otherwise simply just remain ideas or get stalled. So credit unions are a good choice for us because they have the in-depth knowledge of their communities and local market conditions to originate grant and loan opportunities. They also have the financial expertise, the infrastructure to sustain local partnerships, and have a wide geographic reach across Canada, serving markets in rural and urban centers. So far, we've hosted 2 workshops with the Canadian Credit Union Association and are currently engaging with credit unions in Atlantic Canada, Alberta, Southern Ontario, and seeing if they're interested in becoming regional partners. So our aim is to keep the national program model simple and agile, working within our existing proven program framework we just shared to ensure pooled funds from investors and donors will continue to be rapidly deployed to advance community housing projects. So we envision a centralized program hub whereby program governance, administration, operations, and fund development and capital raising are centralized, but then have regional place-based program delivery supported through the credit union network. So to double our impact and create long-term sustainability, we are also looking for investors and funders who are interested in coming along with us in scaling. We think we have a really big opportunity here to help expedite the creation of housing across Canada, but it's going to require more than just us and credit unions at the table to do it well. So this slide shares a little bit of the roadmap of where things are at. The supply challenge comes with some very fast turnaround times. So our team's been working really, really diligently to move through this next phase so we can get into applying to stage 3 and hopefully secure that next $3 million. So at this phase, we're definitely in the secure participation, demonstrate uptake, and secure funding phase. It's coming up fast. We started with co-developing a viable scaling plan and model with the credit unions. This included designing the implementation of what the program model would look like nationally, aligning our investment offerings to match national scaling needs and ensure fund sustainability, and determining the best and most viable geographic regions and credit unions for doing the initial scaling work. We then want to make sure that we can, of course, secure the participation of credit unions. So we're hoping to have 2 to 3 credit unions fully committed to participate. And to also have engaged local stakeholders in the region to ensure that they're informing the place-based delivery model of the program. When it comes to demonstrating adoption and uptake in those regions, we really need to be able to show the pipeline of housing projects. So thinking about the number of units, the square feet of housing, and the speed that these housing projects can be built. So that's a key part of the work that we're currently undertaking and needs to be proven to validate that our scaling model can help do that to bring more housing to Canada. And then we also need to have local stakeholder buy-in. So this is going to be buy-in from the municipalities, the provincial government, and the community housing sector that's going to be in the regions that we're looking to scale to. And last but not least, again, demonstrating the potential to secure capital and funding commitments to enable expansion. So this is where the national level funding and impact investors will come in. We're hoping to, of course, have some credit union investment and support, and then local level funding to match as well. And then hopefully we're in a very good position to submit our stage 3 application. So I think with that, we're hoping folks can join us or at least would be interested in having conversations with us. My colleague Irene is here today, who is the project sponsor for our scaling project, and here to help answer any questions we may have the audience if we do have a bit of time. We'd love to hear from folks, whether today or whether you can check out our webpage and connect with us for a conversation. Conversations are key, and we would really appreciate people connecting with us to learn more about what we're doing. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm hoping the host can help bring Irene on to help steward any questions folks may have for us. Okay, sorry everyone. We need to figure out how to connect my mic and audio to Okay, sorry, folks. We're just having some technical difficulties to bring people up. Okay, so folks, it sounds like we're not able to bring Irene up on screen, unfortunately. So if you have questions, we'll be able to answer them in the chat. I think. So it'll just be a few more moments here. Thanks, everyone. Oh, okay. I was just informed it doesn't look like there is a chat function set up for the workshop. So that makes this a little complex to be able to answer any of folks' questions. Really apologize about that. So with that, just relying on my co-host here, if we should end off the session, and perhaps we can send out some messaging to folks who attended the workshop afterwards. If you'd like to get in touch with us, that would be fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate it. And we really hope to hear from some of you if you have questions for us or just would like to learn more about the scaling project in general. And so my contact details, you can contact me. Do I have a chat spot where I can put that? You can reach, if you go to Vancity Community Foundation's website, you can learn more about our program there. Our website address for the program specifically is vahaf.ca/supply challenge, which is vahaf.ca/supply challenge. Or you could just do vahaf.ca and you can learn more about our project there. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. I truly appreciate your time today. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.